All right, yeah, hello, I'm Gemini. I've been a StarCraft fan for, I don't know, literally the entirety of its existence at this point. I played Brood War like as a kid, essentially, but I was mostly into the competitive realm when StarCraft 2 came out. And I've been doing just a lot of like competition here and there when I was just starting playing, and also just educational guides, helping people out how to play, how to learn how to copy pro builds and stuff like that. If you've seen like my build of the weeks from a long time ago and whatnot, and just doing some streaming and other content creation. But yeah, that's basically me.
Did you get into Brood War at all?
So only as a kid to play against the computer, essentially. Like, actually, when I was that young, my mom and dad didn't even let me go on the internet. So I didn't actually even know that like you could play other people on the internet back then. So I essentially just played the campaign and couldn't beat any of the missions. I was so bad. And I would go into the map editor, which I thought was like so cool that you could like make maps or whatever in Brood War. Go into the map editor, I would make a map with the most broken high ground advantages on only my side of the map. Filter, just put like insane amounts of minerals everywhere. So, because I didn't know how to like make triggers or whatever to like, just give me minerals. So I just had a giant mineral wall. And I would just set up a bunch of cannons and reavers and just watch them, suicide into me. So that was my Brood War experience. And then when I started to learn about StarCraft 2, I like kind of then learned all of like the history that I didn't know about while I was doing that, just sitting on my high ground and shooting people. They're the AI, I mean. So yeah, I learned all about that, and I tried to play some Brood War on like IC Cup and stuff way back then. But I was always really bad. I couldn't do anything that well. So yeah, it was mostly just casual stuff. I played a lot of Warcraft 3 as well, actually doing like custom games and stuff like that. So that was my early Blizzard experience.
Yeah, me too. Do you remember when StarCraft 2 was announced?
I don't remember when it was specifically announced, like the 2007, like Korea and the intro thing in Korea. I don't remember that because again, that was like before I again knew about what competitive StarCraft even was. But I did know when the beta was announced, or like when the StarCraft 2 beta started to happen, because I started actually in like right before the beta came out. There was a website called the SC2 Armory. I don't know if you know this or if anyone watching knows that, or if anyone's from that, then those people are super sick. But those are the people that actually introduced me to everything I know about what StarCraft is. And so I just like randomly, I remembered, okay, this is what I remember. I remembered there was their website, the StarCraft 2 website with like the units and everything like all labeled out on the website. And my brother had shown that to me at some point. I don't know when this was, because my brother was the one that played StarCraft when he like got the Brood War and stuff when we were younger. I remember that, and I was like, oh, well, that looks so cool. Like, wow, StarCraft 2, they're gonna make StarCraft 2. That's cool. Forget about it for 3, 4, whatever years. And then I just suddenly randomly remember that out of nowhere. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm just like doing nothing on my computer. And I just suddenly remembered that website, and my brother showed me that. I was like, oh, I remember that. I wonder if that game came out. And I searched it, and then I get the news article on the SC2Armory.com showing that the beta is going to be coming out in like a month or two or something. And then that's history. The rest from there, it was just nonstop.
Were you in the beta for Wings of Liberty?
Yes, I was in the. I officially got my key in the beta in I think it was March. I think March 2010. Until then, I used one of the friends' codes that I had from the website. I used that at first, so I was sharing his account and boosting him accidentally because I was just a little bit better than him. Which we were all garbage, by the way. This is like literally I started in copper, like back when copper was actually the lowest league back then. It went from copper to platinum, right? And yeah, I was copper, so I boosted him from the bottom of his copper division to a little bit higher in copper division. That was the very start of the SC2 beta.
Do you remember big beta jokes like the one Supply Roach?
Oh, of course. I have like an actual memory in my brain, like I can see the picture of me like trying to defend a roach rush, like coming up my the one force field wide ramp, and the force field doesn't hit, and then I'm like desperately trying to get an immortal out because that's the only thing you could do against that. Yes, that was insane. I remember that. And yeah, thank God they got rid of that.
So when StarCraft 2, well, when did you start to learn about the esports side of StarCraft?
Yeah, so the esports side I learned when I like right when I found this the SC2 Army, right when I found this website, is like I just suddenly like they had so much information about it. It was basically like a TL.net essentially. It was like another one of those which just had a bunch of people just talking about it. There's game threads, there was educational threads, help thread, whatever, anything, lore threads. So I just like deep dived that. I was just like, what is all of like what do you mean there's all of this stuff about this game that I played as a kid, 5, 6, whatever years ago? Like, I was like blown away. And then absolutely everything I was reading up, I was learning about, Jaedong, Bisu, Flash, all these legends that were, dominating this game that I wasn't even able to beat the first Protoss mission of. So it was, yeah, just got deep dived everything right when I got in and just started from that website, yeah.
What appealed to you about StarCraft?
Okay, that'll take me a second to think about. What appealed to me? What appealed to me in StarCraft? I don't even know. I can't even think what actually it was. I think because when I was a kid, what it was is that I would just kind of play whatever my brothers were playing because they were both older than me, and so they were the ones that, they bought all the games, they had the systems, whatever. We had like a couple like family PCs or whatever that we were allowed to use. And so it was just whatever was on the PC or whatever, PS1 game or something or Game Boy game we had. So I think I would just have, I probably it was just like watching my brother play StarCraft 1 at some point, and it was like, oh, that looks so cool. You can like, move your units and like you can do make whatever you want, yada, yada. And I just kind of thought, I guess I just thought that was kind of cool. I actually can't remember that much. It was just like, I probably saw them play it. I thought the ideas of the units were cool. I remember making like, when you're a kid, you just draw everything. I remember trying to draw all the units in the buildings or whatever, just because like, I don't know, they looked cool. It was a cool aesthetic. It just like was a neat looking game. It was sci-fi, which I loved Star Wars as a kid and everything. So it's like, it was cool sci-fi looking stuff. Yeah, I think it just was a cool looking game. The aesthetic was sick. I grew up watching my brothers play it, and then, when StarCraft 2 was released, I was like, well, I want to see what this looks like with, modern graphics. I want to see what it looks like in the modern age or whatever. And it still looked sick, and it was so awesome. The battle reports that were coming out as well, I just watched those a million times over in the couple months leading up to the beta. And again, it just looked so sick. I was just like, I want to play it. I loved the aesthetic, the feeling of it.
So you got into esports when you started playing it. Do you remember things like the Day 9 beta tournament?
Yes, the Day 9 beta tournament, the HDH invitational as well. I mean, I was like waiting for those VODs nonstop, just like, hitting F5 every single moment or whatever when those were getting uploaded. I had no idea what the release schedule was at that time. No one knew what content creation was. Like, if there was like a set schedule, I don't even remember. But it was just like, yeah, when's the next VOD coming out? Like, everyone was watching those. It was like, if you were invested in the beta at that point, or you just knew what was happening, or just knew that there was competition in general, you were waiting to watch those. Like, it was like so sick. It was super hype. Being able to learn about who these pro players are, and just like, that was my first foray into like actually seeing stuff develop firsthand. Whereas before, I say before, it was like a month before that, like when I was learning all this, like, I was just reading history of who was all these great players, like what they did, these tournaments, and then actually seeing it happen in front of me was like really sick. Because like other than StarCraft or competitive, esports, whatever, the only thing I knew competition-wise was sports, like actual just normal sports. I mean, I played a lot of basketball, and I did a little bit of soccer, and like what you do as a teenager and an elementary school student or whatever in America, but. So like the idea that there was competition happening on the internet, I was just like, well, that's sick. I love video games. Like, what? I'm seeing it happen. That's awesome. Whoa, these players are so sick. Yeah. So I was absolutely watching every single one of those when those came out.
Do you remember being a part of like feeling like you're a part of something really big? Like this was all happening and there's so many YouTube videos, and did any of your friends play?
I don't know if I felt like I was part of like some big, I don't know if I was part of some big thing, because because this is an interesting thing where I felt like it was just normal. It was just like I was just like, oh, we're just, yeah, I'm watching professional video gamers. Like, this is like suddenly a thing that just like suddenly like was introduced to my life, and like I just accepted. I was like, oh yes, this is a thing. This exists. Okay, cool. It'll never end. This will be here for forever. Like, yeah, this is sick. I would say I definitely took it for granted at the time, because like I just didn't understand. I was just like, I don't know, this looks cool. I was kind of like just a dumb, naive, like, you know, high school student. I didn't really understand how the world worked very much, you know. So I was just like, yeah, no, this is gonna be here forever, and okay, this is my life now. I play this game competitively, or try to at least, and this is what it is. Or I try to help people learn how to play it or whatever. Even back then, I did make like an original like you know, Protoss help like guide or whatever way back on that website, SC2 Armory, even before I did the build of the weeks and stuff like that. So it was, even back then I was like, yeah, no, I just want to help people learn. Like, I don't know. It was just, I don't know, it was just a cool thing. I didn't really feel like I was part of this like greater big thing that was happening. I didn't really take into consideration what it was going to be or what it was. I was just like, yeah, no, I'm just kind of in this space now. I'm doing this. I didn't think about it that much.
Do you remember watching Justin TV live streams?
Yes, Justin TV was I have an account from Justin TV. My Twitch account is originally a Justin TV account. That is, I did stream as well on that. I remember watching live stream. I remember watching you stream. Live stream, I remember watching like the first Husky StarCraft live stream on that godforsaken website that was just so impossible to understand how the UI worked. I remember watching Destiny on Ustream, and what was DJ Wheat's like show way back that he did on Ustream? I can't even remember which one it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of those was on there as well that I remember watching. But yeah, Justin TV was just like, yeah, that was like the streaming website that finally kind of elevated the streaming platform essentially, whereas like I said, those other websites were like a little difficult to use. The interface was not great. Actually streaming to them, I think I specifically remember streaming to Ustream was very difficult. Like, you had to like do some, I can't even remember exactly what it was, but it's like there's different things you had to do to actually, it wasn't just open OBS and click start stream and you're just good. Like, you had to have like an actual understanding of how computers worked. Like, and there's like, you had to like implement IRC, like embed your IRC chat into it or something. There was no actual chat in the website or something like that. I also remember streaming at live stream as well. I did that too. I even streamed that on, I did a LAN party with one of my friends way back, and I remember I streamed the whole thing on live stream. I do remember doing that. But yeah, then Justin TV obviously made it so much easier, and then when it became Twitch, it was just like, oh, sick! Like, we made this. like this is for us. It was pretty sick.
Do you remember your favorite content creators back then and your favorite players?
Yeah, so favorite content creators was Husky HD. I just literally binged. I would sit in, you know, maybe not 3 a.m., but like, you know, really late into the night or whatever, just on my little iPod Touch watching Husky videos, just like going back and watching literally every single one. I mean, I was huge into Day 9. Day 9 was like my original inspiration, I guess, just to like be a person who's kind of into games and confident and like proud that they play games, and just, you know, are not, you know, afraid to say it or whatever. Because, you know, when I was back in high school, it was playing video games as much as, you know, I was, and some of us was, you know, you're kind of a loser. Like, there's that stigma that was there for sure. So I definitely felt that, and I was not very. I remember, because like there was a couple friends that I had that played StarCraft and knew who, like, knew my ID or whatever, and like those guys were cool. Those were the OGs, but like everyone else, it felt like if they knew who I was or like found my ID or something, I felt like I was like, oh God, this is so awkward. Like, no, I'm Dylan. Like, I don't have a fake internet persona. Like, what? Like, cause I also like did YouTube videos like way back then too. Like, I had like a really old YouTube channel that I don't have anymore, because I think that someone found it that's not in my StarCraft group, and I deleted it. I was like so ashamed. I like couldn't get. I was so afraid of like them like just sharing my crappy old YouTube commentaries or whatever of like beta videos, and being like, oh no. I'm really upset that I did that because there's like, that's history lost now. I can't find those old beta videos anymore, so that's unfortunate. Too bad my old ego was too much for me. But no, Day9 was the one that basically, yeah, he was like the role model for me to make sure that I could, not be like that anymore. So yeah, definitely Day9, HD, Husky, all them. StarCraft, big shout out to him. That was the first person that I actually had like a video go up on their channel, which was super sick. He I don't even remember exactly how this happened, but he was just in a chat channel or something and I was in that chat channel with like a couple other my friends. Were just playing games, and he just was like, hey, can I play? And like he just like came into our group and just started playing games, and I played versus him. He destroyed me completely because he was way better than me at the time. I was not that great then. And then he thought the game was like just so fun, and it was just like a cool experience. He threw it on his YouTube and cast it or whatever. So that was like, oh my god, like that was so like I was like, oh my god, I'm on YouTube, like oh my god, it was like super crazy. So yeah, no, it was those people were definitely the originals. Yeah.
So do you remember what the first few months of the game looked like, and can you describe it? I'm talking like the one base versus one base time period.
Do you mean like what exactly do you mean, like the meta, or
The
like
meta,
just
yeah.
in how it felt playing or whatever, like or?
No, the meta, and you can also compare it to like what it looks like now.
Yeah, so I mean the meta at that time was, like as you said, very one base focused. There was a lot of four gates, a lot of random Terran, just I don't know, like tank, like Raven, all ins. Like I'm trying to think exactly what, because thinking back to that time, I almost didn't think that much about what the build orders were that much or anything. It was mostly, it was like you could do anything at that time. Like in the beta, in the first few months after release, it felt like anything was possible. And that was just kind of cool. It was just kind of fun that you could just kind of go into a game. You didn't necessarily have to research your own build orders or anything. You can just kind of go in with an idea. And if you had solid mechanics and you just learned how to, how to macro and make a lot of stuff, then you can kind of just win. Because obviously back then it was like so not figured out and everything. So I can't even really remember that much, but obviously it was a lot of like one base stuff. It was a lot of early cheeses, lots of cannon rushes, lots of proxy gates, lots of six pools, lots of roach rushes, baneling busts, yada yada, you name it. But it's weird because like now obviously like I play against a baneling bust or something, or I play against some proxy 4x or something in TVP, and I'm just like, I want to strangle this person. But it's like back then it was like I didn't care. It was like, okay, yeah, okay. Maybe it was a little frustrating to like lose to a cheese or something like multiple times in a row, but I was like, I don't know, this is fun. All right, let's go next. Let's play another one. Let's just see what happens. I didn't have that like I didn't have a reference of anything. Like now it's like I've gotten to a point where it's like, okay, I know what my skill level is. I know what it has been. I know what it should be if I put so much time in, whatever. But at that time, I was just playing the game for fun. It was just fun to play. And I was just kind of naturally getting better as it happened. So it's like, I was just like, oh, I don't know. This is just cool. I just want to play. I don't really care what's happening. Back then, of course, yeah, like you said, it was very, very all-in centric. But I don't know. Yeah, it was just kind of fun regardless.
Do you have any particularly fond memories of some of the earlier maps? Like Shakura's Plateau,
Yeah.
Caverns,
I'm trying to think, what was
Ohana.
the beach one? The best map of the early days was Cloud Kingdom. That was for sure the best map. I enjoyed that the most. I mean, the aesthetic looked sick. It just like was a cool looking map. It had that kind of like eerie, kind of smoky vibe. Like it was like a cool like lighting effect or whatever that they did on that map that was kind of different from all the other ones, which I always thought was really cool. It also just played well. Like I just enjoyed the three base setup. It was very fun to go blink obs on that map where you just are able to just blink around and get in their main base very easily. Xel'Naga Caverns was I think the original like good map, I would say. Like some people would say Metalopolis or something like that, but it's like when Xel'Naga Caverns came in, I feel like that became like, at least for me in my group that I was playing with as well, it felt like that was like the standard map. Like I hosted every game on that map, or like if I had to practice a build order, I'm going on that map. or if I'm doing, just practicing mechanics or like, grinding something, I'm on that map. I don't know, Zelda Caverns was definitely an early one that felt like it was gearing more towards what a standard map should be. Obviously, it had like the super wide natural, which nowadays we know is terrible, but I don't know, something about that map felt more legit, and it felt like it was, we're starting to get in the right direction of what a map should be, as it was like just a little bit bigger, sort of. Like back then, for that standards, it was like slightly larger, but like the setup made sense to like, be able to take control or whatever, and you're kind of expanding still like, almost away from your opponent. The Tasteless Secret Hallway was obviously a nice, cool meme as well, but yeah, I would say Zelda Caverns was like my OG favorite map, and then Cloud Kingdom slightly after that, yeah.
Do you remember the first time that you watched GSL?
I don't think I remember the first time, because I do remember a couple times, because back then it was, you had to pay to get it, and it was happening at like 6 a.m. or earlier, which as a high school student, I was not either awake to watch, or I was not going to be able to persuade my parents to let me buy a internet streaming service, which didn't exist yet. Like that was not a thing that was in people's minds at that time. So I saw it very rarely. I remember one time in like, maybe it was like 2011, early 2011, where I specifically tried to wake up to watch a GSTL match before I would go to school. Because the thing is, I couldn't wake up when I was a kid. I still can't wake up now. I go to bed late and I wake up late. But like at that time, it was like I get up, I hate waking up, and I'm going right to school. Like I didn't have time to do anything. So to like make myself get up earlier slightly to sort of watch a little bit of this 240p video on the internet that was happening live in a country across the entire globe, that was pretty special for me. So yeah, I tried to do that like once or twice maybe. And yeah, that was probably the earliest one. I will say that the first time I specifically wanted to watch a whole match was Huck, his GSL run, when I can't remember exactly which I think it was his round of 16 match, I think it was, in a group stage or something like that, where yeah, he was like going actually kind of far, and like it looked like he was gonna. So I specifically remember saying to my parents, like, there's this match happening, I want to watch this, I'm gonna stay up, and they're like, all right, like, sure, you're not gonna be able to get up, go to school tomorrow, but whatever, do it. And so I specifically remember that match. He lost, so I was sad. But that was the first one that I specifically remember being like, this is sick, because Huck was like one of my original favorite players. Huck was super cool. TL, I was a huge Liquid fan, I still am. So that specific Huck match, I was like, this is a crazy scenario that he could possibly, go really far. We haven't seen this yet much, so I wanted to stay up and watch that. I did. He lost, but it was cool anyway.
Do you remember online tournaments such as the Playhem Opens or the IGN Fight Nights?
Yes, I played in so many Playhems. I loved Playhem. It was such a sick website. I adored that website. It was so fun. Being able to just sign up to any of those tournaments and have a chance to get anywhere was so fun. It was the fact that there were multiple skill levels as well. They were like gated in between, Diamond Masters, certain levels of Masters or whatever. So that way I could still play in series that were, not just getting dumpstered by pros, which was still enjoyable. Yeah, Playhem was super sick. I also remember the TL Opens, the TL.net Opens as well, where I loved those, and I only got to play in a few of them because they were usually at earlier times, because it was, more slightly centered more towards EU players as well, to make sure they could play. So I had to kind of wake up a little bit earlier to play in those on the weekends. But whenever those came out, that was so fun, because you sign up and then you like, it just says like, you get the little notification on your inbox like, yeah, you're signed up, just wait for the thing to go or whatever. And it's like a totally different like link or whatever that has all the brackets, and then you hit that refresh and it finally, the bracket fills out, and it's this massive freaking bracket as well. And you're like, oh my God, where am I? I don't know, that was like so fun. It was so sick to be able to you're just kind of like waiting in anticipation, like, who am I gonna play? Is like in a bracket where I could maybe play against Huck, like, oh my God, is it like, am I gonna play White Raw? Like, that was, I don't know, that was like such a sick moment back then. It felt so cool to be able to be a part of it, because like you only watch it, right? You normally would watch the tournaments, and you're like, I'm never gonna be that good, or like I'm not gonna be able to, I can't travel to these tournaments. But then you can playing these opens against actual pro players, and you're like, "Whoa, this is so sick! Like I can actually get a match against some of these people."
So do you remember the IPL fight nights and the Cat's Pajamas Doha casts?
So I do remember IPL fight nights. I do remember Cats Doha, and there was someone else as well that was with Doha mostly after that too for IPL that I cannot remember the name of, which is sad. But I do remember a little bit. I don't have as much super huge memories about that, to be honest. I just kind of remember it being there, and I was watching it sometimes whenever it would come up. And yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have any super like specific memories about that much. So yeah, I don't know.
Do you remember NASL and the Bitterdam casts?
Yes, NASL was very good. I enjoyed, of course, the old Bitterdam as well. It was very fun. I just liked having an actual North American tournament. It felt like the North American Star League was like, I was like, oh my God, that's so sick. Like we're gonna have a Star League in our country. Like, whoa, that's crazy. Like it wasn't just MLG or whatever. It was like a new thing that comes up specifically for StarCraft. It felt really cool. And yeah, I don't know, those tournaments were great. I mean, there were a couple of memes, obviously, about them and like how, the NASL sound guy, of course, is even used in non-StarCraft spaces today, which is great. But obviously there was, it wasn't the best run tournament, especially looking back at it, but it did provide some excellent content. I loved watching I remember what would you call it? Just like not interview, but like you had to give a video to like, what's the word? I can't think of the word. Where you submit a video to try and get into the league, essentially. Like I remember watching like Artos's video where he's like talking about himself and like why he should be in this league or whatever. Why? Because like that's what they didn't just invite people, or they didn't have like a qualifier for it or whatever. You had to specifically submit a video to advertise yourself to get into the league or whatever, which is like, thinking of it now, a really strange way to do it. Like, I don't know, it was very interesting. So I remember watching some of these pro players or personalities making a video being like, yeah, I should be in this NASL Season 1 league or whatever. And yeah, a very weird way to do it, but it was kind of cool back then. It was like kind of hype. You're just like seeing all these people put these videos out. You're like, oh my God, who's going to get picked? Who's going to be in it? Is Artosis going to be in one of these things? Like, that'd be super fun to watch. And he was. And then, of course, we get the Artosis pylon meme from that. So very well worth it. Thank you, NASL, for choosing him to play in that league. But yeah, NASL was a super cool thing to watch as like kind of like not necessarily grassroots, but like started from nothing to be just this big league or whatever. Whereas MLG was like a history thing of the past where it had stuff before StarCraft. NASL was like something that was purely StarCraft in America, which was pretty cool.
Do you remember how important TL.net was to the early StarCraft days?
Yes, TL.net was extremely important. I've had that essentially open on my computer for 14 years straight. Like, I have literally, ever since I learned what TL.net was, I've just had that. I have 3 things open on my computer no matter what if I'm on my computer: Twitter, Reddit, like our StarCraft, and TL.net. Like, those things are just always up. You would just constantly be looking at TL.net all the time. All the threads were extremely interesting, and just as much as I didn't really post as much there as I did in because I was mostly on the other site, SC2 Armory. That's what I was the one that I was mostly on, where I was actually talking a lot. But we knew about TL.net obviously, and how important it was, and how everything kind of revolved around that space. It was literally like the central hub of what StarCraft was, and everything that came out was on that website. You were always going there. The sidebar for the streams was insanely important. That's where you do anything, what anything was happening. The calendar was there. You saw every single thing that's going to be coming up. You saw all the streams listed for what events. You saw the live streams of all the different players that are playing or whatever, the community streamers as well, like Destiny and some of these other people. And if you got on that sidebar, like, that was insane. Like, the amount of viewership boost you would get from getting on the TL sidebar at early SC2 days was gigantic. So, like, I remember myself and many others, literally the goal was to be able to get on the sidebar. Like, if you could get on the sidebar as a streamer, you're done. You'd made it. Like, you are the streamer, and people will watch you. And because like there's that one, there's like the featured streamers, and then there's the one you click, and then there's the unfeatured streamers, right? And so like I remember being upset because my name started with G, so I was like slightly down the list, so you weren't at the top with the A and like the symbols or whatever, so you didn't get the first clicks or whatever from that. So I was like, oh god, I need to get on the feature list. God, I need to be good. Like, so like yeah, that was like. Yeah, everyone was on this website. It was actually, people nowadays probably don't understand exactly, because it's now just like, you know, you just go there and it's like there's a, you know, it's like a month-old poll that, you know, there's actually a decent amount of people voting on. But it's like, you know, there's like, you know, news that's happening there and whatever, but it's not what it was. Like, it was, literally everything was happening there. I can't even overstate how central that website has been.
Can you talk about State of the Game and how entertaining it was?
State of the game is, I get like kind of emotional just thinking about State of the Game. Like there is so much, I watched so much of this this podcast or whatever you want to call it back then. The amount of hours I would spend, like again, late up at night on my little iPod Touch watching these things was it had a big impact on my early StarCraft days or whatever. Just like being able to have this kind of thing, this again kind of like this central hub, like how TL was, where there's the personalities of the scene just kind of talking about the game. It's like what my dad and my family would turn on ESPN after a Jets game and watch, you know, just the breakdown of it and like have just this kind of thing. It felt like that, where it's like you just have this group of people that you know and respect as, you know, higher ups of the community or whatever, and you know whatever they're saying is true, essentially. You know, maybe biased, but you kind of can respect that and understand that whatever's being said there is respectable, and you can learn from that, and like that's a general, what do you call, like a general just vibe of what the community was like at that time or something like that. I specifically remember the drunk Christmas Christmas episodes as well, which were insanely entertaining. So many of those, of course, are very just like they tug at your heartstrings a little bit as well, because like some of the things that they say in those are just so they get to like, you know, the emotional parts, and it's like so sick of them recapping the whole year and whatever. I remember specifically one thing Day9 was saying, because this is back when I was a Liquid Hero fanboy as well, right? So I remember one of the episodes is when Day9 is talking about how like his favorite moment of like StarCraft 2 history essentially was when he saw Hero win the DreamHack Winter 11, his first tournament or whatever. And like I remember getting so emotional watching that. I'm even just getting emotional now thinking about it, honestly. Like, that was such like the way he described it, the way like he's like trembling, crying, doesn't know what to do with his hands or whatever. I was like, you know, I loved that. Like I wanted so much to be able to, when I was playing or whatever, I wanted to be like that kind of in that scenario as well. Like it was my dream to be able to win a tournament or whatever. Obviously, you know, I'm garbage, but whatever. Everyone has that dream, right? And just to hear like when I watched Hero win, obviously that was like such a cool thing with how emotional he got, and to hear Day9 recount that as his favorite thing on the State of the Game as well was like such a, like I related to it so much. It was, that podcast really was just such a relatable thing for anyone that was a StarCraft fan, and it made for such like a heartwarming kind of place to go to whenever, every week or month or whatever. I don't remember exactly how much they uploaded it, but every time it uploaded or whatever, it was just a nice thing to be able to go to.
So on the subject of Hero, which sounds like you're a big fanboy, so
Yeah,
you'll know a lot. Do you recall like Hero versus Puma was a rivalry for a while? The Destiny Cloud Fist build, and how Protoss had to deal with that on Ohana. So all that. Talk about all that.
Yes. So yeah, obviously the Hero Puma rivalry was incredible. I actually have like a thing written up about all of this, and I wanted to do like a documentary thing, like or whatever, like the video essay or whatever for YouTube at one point about this. And it's, you know, sitting not completed on my computer, but I hope to one day eventually be able to finish that. But yeah, the Hero Puma rivalry was like it was such a cool thing to witness, because like as a Hero fan, as a TL fan, when Hero kind of came in, we didn't really know what to expect from him because he was replacing Huck, which was, again, the biggest bombshell thing to happen in SC2 roster moves yet. Having Huck leave TL, having him join up with Idra on EG was like, again, one of the most ridiculous things. No one saw this coming. And then to have Hero come in as this player that, unless you were like a super diehard GSTL fan that was being able to stay up and watch these, you've never heard of this guy. Again, I like I said before, I wasn't able to watch GSL at all when I was at that age. So like, Hero was like, who's this person? Like, this random person's coming in to replace my favorite player? Like, hello? Like, and then to see him like suddenly develop as this insane Protoss player that was like revolutionizing how the game was played was like absolutely ridiculous. And so the rivalry between him and Puma was extremely interesting to watch because it was the first time that I kind of was invested in this idea that like these rivalries come out and then you're constantly playing against these players that, you know, you go back and forth with them, you're rooting for one, but maybe he's not exactly going and winning as much, so like you're kind of like getting this underdog vibe as well. And to have them constantly just like batter each other at like every tournament, it felt like for a whole year, it made for an incredible storyline when it finally, you know, culminated in DreamHack winner where he actually was able to win. So the way that he was doing it, like you said, with like the, you know, the Destiny Cloud Fist, the classic old 1-1-1s with the, you know, the tank Banshee Ravens, whatever, all that garbage that they could throw at you that early. The way he was doing it as well, like that was destroying every Protoss player at the time. Like no one knew how to play against this reliably. It felt very difficult. It was impossible to know, like, you know, what exactly they could throw at you. Are they going for this variant? Are they going for that variant? Are they going to have Cloak Banshees with it? Are they not going to have Cloak? Are they going to have Point Defense Drone? Like, all of these things. And then the way that he dismantled it in DreamHack winner especially was like so insane to watch. Like the way he's kind of putting the pressure on Puma instead, going for the like fast Phoenix openers to shut down Banshees, going for like the Zealot Stalker pokes at the wall to like, you know, break the Terran down before they're able to get their little push set going. Like that, you didn't see that before. Like his kind of crazy little like 4 gates with like a pylon hidden on Tal'Dorei Malta or whatever to, you know, get behind or whatever. Like the ways that he was kind of doing these builds was not what you saw before. And so it was really inspiring to just kind of watch someone who beforehand, it was a lot of just sitting back and turtling and doing nothing. You're just kind of waiting and gonna absorb whatever you get and then hopefully you get the death ball, right? Whereas Hero was doing, he was thinking before that. He was trying to keep the tempo of the game and do something that the other Protosses were not doing, which was, you know, breaking the game up from the start and making sure that you can kind of control the game from there and out multitask your opponent with, you know, a plethora of different things. So, yeah, fond memories watching Hero be able to actually dismantle the Terran destruction of the time.
We're going to just talk about some of the key members, key players at that era. Although first, I would like to ask, do you remember Spanishiwa?
I do remember Spanishiwa. Spanishiwa was an interesting one because obviously he was another one of those revolutionary players that was doing something totally different with the gasless Zerg style, right? And so I remember watching his stream a lot and just being like, this guy is pretty cool. Like this, the way he's kind of doing all this, it was so revolutionary. It kind of took everyone on the internet at that time, like on Reddit and TL. We were just kind of like, what is this crazy guy? Like, what do you mean you can go get, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, you shouldn't be able to win with this. And then he just kind of wins with it. And the way he's doing it was totally weird and looked cool because it just, again, was something that no one else was really doing. And yeah, I remember even like playing against him at times and thinking like, this is so crazy, like the way that he's playing or whatever. And yeah, I think he was definitely a big part of like the early revolutionary moments of Zerg, of how you can actually play with a lot of queens and whatnot, and actually feeling that those units are very strong. But yeah, no, it was very crazy kind of watching some of these old players just suddenly come out of nowhere with things that we've never thought about before. And that's why I liked the early days of StarCraft so much, because it felt like there was just infinite possibilities that you can just come out with and just surprise everyone.
Can you talk about MC and his impact on Protoss in the early days?
Yeah, so MC's early days were very interesting. I remember specifically copying some of his PvZ builds with like the 1 gate expands with Void Ray behind it as well to like actually be able to secure a natural without having to go for like the 2 or 3 gate sentry openers that like Noni and whatever were doing, which was like the only safe way to play at some point. And then for him to like show that you can just kind of actually expand by being very precise with what you're doing. I think that's what made it so interesting with MC, is that a lot of people might kind of look back at him and think like, oh, he was just a 2-base all-in, or he was a 1-base all-in, or he just did these really, you know, it was like, you know, oh, 8 Protoss, blah, blah. But like, the way that he did everything was like so exact and precise, and the ways that he found edges in the game were definitely different from other players, I would say. He like was able to just get these really sharp timings that no one else was getting, because like he just kind of understood the game very well and just knew when to cut corners, knew what scouting information meant what, and so he was able to kind of show Protoss players a little bit more of how to be a very crisp execution style player. And like I said, that wasn't a lot of the early days of Protoss was kind of just, you're just kind of sitting there waiting, trying to get the Colossus Void Ray Death Ball, or, you know, trying to just do a 4-gate and or some other cheese or something that's maybe not the best or not well executed or something. But he definitely kind of pushed the limit of how you can execute really well and just kind of get in their face and just blow them up at a certain time and just have a really solid way to do that. So yeah, he was very good at that for sure.
And can you talk about Marine King Prime and the development of the Baneling Split?
Yeah, I remember watching the video back then of, you know, the first crazy Baneling split essentially on Shakuris, and yeah, I think I can't remember exactly what my reaction was when this started to develop. I feel like it was just like a, oh my god, he's insane, like kind of a thing, where it's like, again, it was just a moment of clarity where it's like, wow, we've been doing it wrong this whole time. Like the way that you can do it, where you actually, you know, are stutter stepping and splitting at the same time, kind of a thing, and you don't just kind of get rolled into with a bunch of banelings or whatever. Again, I was not a Terran player specifically, so it didn't impact me as much as some others, I'm sure. But I do just remember it being like this insane thing. Like, wow, like it felt like a Jaedong-esque moment where, like, you know, Jaedong suddenly is just this insane Muta player back in the day, which again I didn't relive specifically, but I, you know, rewatched it and understood what it meant. But it felt like that was like the moment. That was our Jaedong moment, essentially, of the early days. It felt like, where it's like, holy crap, someone just revolutionized just how to control the game at all, and no one could do it to the level that he could until many years later. So.
And you talk about Nestea and maybe some of the memes of GSL with that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think I remember the most about Nestea is the wait, was it? Oh no, or was it Jelizerg, the Inca 4 DT games in a row? Was that Nestea? Okay. So yeah, the thing that I remember the most is the finals of Nestea versus Inca, which was the 4 DT rushes in a row, which is just the greatest strategic mind ever. Like, that is just, they never gonna expect it the 4th time in a row, surely. So no, I remember that. That's the thing that is that anytime I think of Nestea, that is the first thing I think of. Obviously then, like, you know, the creator of the universe meme with Artosis as well. The so many banelings, that was Nestea as well, right? Yeah. Yeah, wow, there's actually a lot of memes coming out of Nestea at that time, though. That is kind of crazy. Yeah, I do specifically remember the finals, the undefeated finals against Inca with the 4-0 of the DT rushes, and thinking, God, I could do that. I could have been there. Like, no, not the level, but yeah, no, I remember that being very funny at the time. I do remember as well finally meeting ST at a DreamHack, the MLG Anaheim 2014 when he was there. But that was also kind of like when he was a bit washed at that point. So it was kind of cool, like kind of just seeing him there, like kind of waiting in the line with everyone else to get into the venue, because it was just like the open tournament, so you could just go in and play or whatever. So he was just kind of there waiting there with his girlfriend just to get in as well. I'm just kind of like a few people behind him. It was like kind of crazy. It was like, oh, what? That's like our Flash, like, or whatever, like of the time period. Like, that's kind of crazy. He's just sitting here waiting to get into this open tournament just like me. So yeah, that was kind of cool. But yeah, no, I always think back to that finals, man. That was just such a That's such a glorious moment of history. I need to revisit that in a video or something at some point. It's so good.
And can you talk about MVP and your memories of him?
I remember MVP. I mean, we all remember the Squirtle MVP finals. I remember him just being this just crazy god of the time, whereas like no one could stop him. It felt like every single time that he won, it was just like, yes, that was supposed to happen. Like that was the way that he played it. The dominance that he had in that era just felt like, yes, okay, this is the person that was supposed to win this tournament, and I'm fine with that. That was correct. This was not unexpected. And yeah, like, yeah, I just kind of remember, again, just thinking of him as this kind of Flash person, whereas like this, like, okay, this is what our era of gods looks like, someone like him. I remember as well watching the Artosis house videos, of the team house videos, where he went to the IM house or whatever, and MVP is there, and there's the classic thing where he like turns his head and laughs at the camera or whatever, that classic little GIF or whatever. And I remember specifically watching that, being like, oh, what? That's a human. Like that guy has emotions. Like what? He's like he seems like kind of just a cool little funny guy. Whereas, you know, you just kind of looked at these people from afar and just thought they were just these like stoic gods that like literally just untouchable like humans that just kind of knew they were just the top of the class and just, you know, disrespected anyone below them or whatever. Like, I don't know, it just kind of got that vibe almost. So to see that kind of cool little humanizing moment or whatever in the Team House VODs, which were the coolest videos ever, by the way. I loved those videos. It was a really cool thing to just kind of see like a little bit of human, I don't know, action or whatever from those people. So yeah, I always kind of just did like MVP. Just he felt like kind of just a badass, just a cool player, just dominating everything he did. I mean, the way he did it in the Squirtle finals as well. Gotta respect it. Like you can't not.
Can you talk about Broodlord Infestor,
Oh,
and not
Jesus.
just your emotions on the Broodlord Infestor, but also what kind of led to that, the Queen patch and the development of mass infestors with Destiny?
Yeah. Yeah, Broodlord Infestor was a brutal time, man. I remember the Hero versus Leonark Antigua game where he was just dumpstering him the whole time and just, you know, playing the most insane game of StarCraft you've ever seen, and then still just cannot beat someone that gets mass Broodlord Infestor. Like the young Imba meme as well from GS, that was GSL at the IPL, right? Yeah. So just so people think nowadays that you think something's broken. People think ghosts are broken. People think whatever, Mass Void Ray was broken. Broodlord Infestor was broken. Like, you could not play against this if you got to a certain point, if you let it get to a certain point. Like, you literally had to stop them or else it was done. Like, you in Protoss especially, you had to, if you could not get the Vortex and get the Archons inside, it was done. If the player knew that they could just split up their Broodlords, if the Zerg player took a moment and was like, wait, what if I use my hands and I split up a little bit, if I maybe shoot a couple little Infested Terrans in there, and then it doesn't work. So yeah, it was very frustrating to play against, I joke, but you know, it was very frustrating at the time watching some of these games unfold where it was just like, you saw it happening. You see the development happening of the game and you're like, well, all right, that's it. The game's done. It's happened. But yeah, like seeing the development of it was also very interesting. Like you said, with Destiny being very heavy on the Infestor usage for a long time, you know, the four Fester hit squad, whatever the Brofesters, whatever he called it back then, was so entertaining to watch those streams. I remember also Stefano being the guy as well. I feel like Stefano was like the guy that made it insane. Seeing like with the Queen patch where he started to just, I remember specifically watching and thinking a lot during those games, being just like, this guy plays like he has map hacks. Like the way that he plays, he was like the Serral of then, where he just felt like he had every piece of information at any time and knew the exact move to make no matter what. And it felt like if you were trying to break him, it just wouldn't happen. He knew exactly what corners to cut. He knew exactly how many units he needed to get. He knew exactly how to just be as mechanical as possible to just get the most insane amount of units as fast as possible. And so when the Queen buff happened, it made it impossible even for like the Hellion run bys and stuff at the time to get damage done. The Queens were just destroying everything. And you kind of, like I said, you kind of just can see it develop. You're just like, okay, well, that didn't work. That didn't work. All right, we just know it's going to happen. We're going to get Broodlord Infestor, and it's going to be a Zerg win. So, yeah, if you guys think that something is broken nowadays, I'm sorry, you're a StarCraft Zoomer. You don't understand exactly what broken actually means.
Yeah, can you talk about the rivalry between Idra and Huck and Evil Geniuses and Team Liquid?
The Idra Huck EGTL rivalry was awesome. It was, I mentioned it just a little bit before with when HerO took over from Huck's spot, but, excuse me, but yeah, that rivalry was very interesting. Everyone wanted to watch that. That was like on the minds of everyone, it felt like, at that time. Anyone in the threads was going crazy about it anytime they played against each other. It was such a sick hero versus villain vibe, whereas like, you know, here Huck is the guy in the light with TL, you know, trying to batter down the disgusting Zerg and the evil, you know, BM, EG, whatever. Of course, I was on the TL side, so, you know, I'm very biased in that regard, but it was such a rivalry, and I don't think we ever got anything like that ever again. That was the peak SC2 rivalry as far as I'm concerned. The EGTL rivalry, especially in like all the team leagues of the time back then, just seeing the Huck EG develop, the Huck Idra development was it was like such a cool like binding moment of the time, whereas like everyone crowded around this and everyone kind of had a side, everyone was invested in it, everyone was interested in it about it. And that's why when the switch happened, it was so insane. Like no one in their right mind thought that Huck was going to go into EG. Like the picture of them, you know, grasping hands or whatever, the promotion image was like what like what is it? Like it was crazy. And the fact that it was like the rumors of the 6-figure buyout as well or whatever, like it was crazy. It was such a cool moment of time. Like everyone was mind blown about this. And to see then, like, I mean, unfortunately, see kind of Huck's fall from that point was a bit unfortunate. As you know, he did have a couple good tournaments after that, but it really felt like, you know, that's when the kind of the EG retirement memes really kind of kicked in a little bit. The retirement house memes, of course, with the team house as well. So that was a bit unfortunate, but it was such a cool thing to watch. I mean, even just watching the old Idra streams of days old, you know, the 10K viewers of him just sipping his protein smoothies or whatever. You know, getting on, just calling, you know, everyone an absolute ape and just a terrible player that doesn't know how to play the game. The Idra in a nutshell video is so good. I love watching that, dude. It's so funny. But yeah, those days, man, that was peak StarCraft streaming content for sure. Oh my God.
Totally forgot the EG house was called the Iron House, man.
Oh my God, dude.
So
I mean, it was Thorzane, Huck. Oz? I mean, he was never really that good anyway, but I don't know. Like, I feel like everyone that went there was just suddenly just garbage. Yeah, Alive. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about region locking. What were your opinions when you saw that the region locking was going to happen in 2015?
So the region lock, I was very much against it, obviously, as it was a Korean fanboy back then. I just wanted to watch the Koreans, and no matter what, so I just, you know, I was always a person that wanted to watch more Koreans play. I wanted to see them in their tournaments. My favorite players were Koreans. So I was very much against it. I thought it was really bad. I mean, nowadays, obviously, looking back, it's still kind of hard to say because obviously it did increase the, you know, the foreign representation overall. It definitely did help, bolster some of that. I think it's a bit debatable on how much that contributed to the decline of the Korean scene. Obviously, it's hard to know exactly with the life match fixing stuff happening kind of a little bit after that too. So it's hard to know how much exactly contributed to all of the stuff that led to the demise of the Korean scene with, you know, Pro League leaving and all the sponsors and teams leaving. But I do remember at the time being very annoyed and upset about it because it was just like well, the best players are like why are we just stopping the best players from being the best? Like, let them be good. Like, if you want to be good, step up. Like, if you're not going to be able to beat them, that's your problem. Like, we don't, like, I remember having this mindset at the time, and to an extent, I still kind of agree with that. I'm like, you know, the best players should win, yes. I do there should be room for obviously, like regional qualifiers. Because I do remember as well, like the 2012 BWC style, where it's like all the regions having their crazy tournaments to then culminate in the final thing was very cool. And it was really cool to get this like nationalistic pride for a country or whatever and just, go all the way for it. But Koreans should win. They're the best. If they're the best, then they should win. Like that was my idea back then. So I was definitely not. Yeah, I was not a fan of it. I felt like it was kind of undermining the scene a little bit and saying, it was like why are we doing this? It's if the foreigners want to be good, step up to the plate and actually prove it. That was my viewpoint.
And now for a slightly sad topic. We're going to talk about both of them, but first, can you talk about Incontrol?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Jeff is an interesting one because obviously, because I actually started because at the very early days of StarCraft, he did kind of give off this kind of big bad bully vibe, if you know what I mean. He was kind of like, he was like the guy. He was, very jokey. So like, it was, if you didn't understand him very much, it felt very confrontational sometimes, the way he was kind of, saying stuff. So at first I remember, the first things I remember being like, this guy's kind of a jerk. Like what? Like what? I don't know. I didn't really, yeah, I don't know. It took me a little bit to be like, oh, I get it. I understand like who he is. And like, obviously he's, he's just very jokey and like yada, yada. And I very quickly came to realize that he is just one of the funniest people I think I've ever seen. And I mean that, I don't know, anything I think about with Incontrol is how he made me laugh for years. It's kind of weird too, because even nowadays it's weird to think about because it almost feels like he's not gone in some way. Like I have these moments where I just will suddenly think and I will see like an old video. I literally just last night I was watching the clip of him making fun of Koreans drinking water at Home Story Cup, which is one of my all-time favorite clips as well ever, where he's explaining how Koreans have the most awkward way of drinking water ever, and just the way he did it was just so on point. And so yeah, literally just last night I was watching this, and I had this moment where I'm just like, fuck, that guy's gone. That's crazy. Like I watch these videos and I'm just like, I'm thinking that he's still around still. It's just really weird feeling that I've never really gotten much before, because I'm not really that invested in celebrities that much as a kid. Like obviously I had some favorite actors or whatever, I guess, growing up, but it's like if an actor died or some celebrity died, it felt very disconnected. I didn't care that much. Like sure, it was like, okay, that's sad, but like it never really affected me that much. To the extent of when obviously Incontrol passed. Like it was such a I read the tweet. I thought I was getting trolled. I think many people share that experience as well. I thought I was getting trolled because also the tweet had that the link to like the shout out or whatever to the dog, the bulldog whatever charity thing or whatever. And I was like what? Like, what am I reading? Like, it took me minutes. It took me multiple minutes to read that and be like, oh my God, what did I, like, I don't know. I can't even really think about it that much right now. But like, that was, I don't even know what I was thinking at that time. It was like such a massive blow. I've never experienced anything like that. Even, which I'm sure you're going to say as well, the TB passing as well was all like equally as but like the difference is that we knew he had cancer, we knew it was a struggle, and he was trying his best to to deal with it or whatever. So it was almost like surely he can't like keep going, like it's got to happen sometime, right? Like I think everyone maybe we all hoped that he obviously would beat it, but it obviously like when it did happen, we're just kind of like, okay, it did happen. But like the Incontrol thing, it was just, oh my God, it was out of the blue. Like nothing impacted me I think, as much and as emotionally as that. Like, that was very difficult, even just thinking about it right now.
Yeah, you touched on TotalBiscuit's passing, but can you talk about his contribution to StarCraft?
Yeah, give me a moment. I knew that was coming. I knew you were gonna hit me with that. Yeah, after someone made a reference to that. Like, someone, whoa, someone made a reference to someone was asking the politics channel of the ATP channel Discord, like, why does Trump always grab his water with two hands? And then someone said, like, he's been watching too many Koreans or something. So I instantly linked that video. Oh my God, it's so funny. All right, so I am talking about TB's contribution. Okay. Yeah, so I think that when I think about TB, the most, I think of the Axiom contribution, obviously. I still have my Axiom sweatshirt. I wear it very frequently even. I think about I can't remember the name of him and Incontrol did that, like the King of the, was it just the King of the Hill something? Like, it was something King of the Hill. Shoutcraft King of the Hill, that's what it was. Yes, I remember loving those. I watched that so much. Those were very enjoyable. I remember him making that one intro to StarCraft video where he's like trying to explain to any newcomer like how to play competitive StarCraft and what it means to watch and yada yada. I remember showing that to my family and being like, guys, like, understand me, please. Just any time I would maybe like be playing in a tournament match or something, I could maybe hope that they can understand what's happening a little bit from that. So, yeah, that video as well was very big, very cool initiative of him. It was just very cool just to see how much he cared about the game and just wanted to make other people also care about it and bring as many new people in as possible. It was very cool. I just loved him as a commentator too. He was just such a fun commentator to listen to. His voice was excellent. The way he was like, hyped things up was super great. He was such like a cool dude in general. It felt like he felt very down to earth. I met him at a Red Bull event when it came to New York City, and I was able to get a picture with him. He was just so nice about it. He was like such a cool guy, just kind of just taking pictures with everyone after the fact in the venue. It was such an honor to be able to meet him. So yeah, just a huge pillar of the scene, honestly. Just like the fortitude and dedication he had up until the end was just massive respect. I can't even say anything else really. It's just so much respect for that guy.
And then finally, what does StarCraft mean to you?
Yeah, give me a moment on that one too. What does StarCraft mean to me? What does StarCraft mean to me? I mean, it's comfort, I think, is the biggest thing I would say. It's half of my life, essentially. I'm 29. I've played this game for 14 years. It's half of my life. Like, I don't even know what I would be without StarCraft. Like, it's a very difficult thing to think about because like I started it with high school or whatever, like going into high school. Like I said, it was like a thing that I kind of grasped onto very well because at the time I was not really, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was not that into like, the best days of my life, which is what high school is supposed to be, which I remember my principal saying in some random auditorium at one point. It's like, high school is supposed to be the best years of your life. It's like, shut up, bro. Like, what? Like, I don't have friends. Like, what are you talking about? So, like, StarCraft filled this void for sure, where it was this thing where I could relate with people with. I could experience things. I felt like I had a place in some community, in something. Like I said, the old website, the SC2 Armory, is instrumental in making me who I am, just to have people that I could talk to about something that I loved and was passionate about. Yeah, I mean, it gave my life purpose, is essentially. Like, it gave me something to do, something to be passionate about, and something to strive towards. And I mean, here I am 14 years later doing this interview, and so obviously my feelings were right at that time because, yeah, it put me into a place where I never could have thought I would be otherwise. So, yeah, StarCraft is comfort. StarCraft is just is my life. I can't say anything else.